how I make this knit blouse on my Sentro 48 needle circular knitting machine. This was made using a number 2 fingerling or sports weight yarn. It was a blend of Murano, cashmere, and nylon. You can definitely use acrylic if you would like. You will also need your Sentro circular knitting machine. I'm using the 48 needle version set to panel mode. You'll need your project yarn. You'll need scrap or waste yarn. You'll need a darning needle as well as a crochet hook. In this tutorial, some fundamentals that you're going to need to know is how to set up your machine for panel mode, how to cast on and use waste yarn or scrap yarn for your panels. If you need additional help or don't know how to do that, check out the links in my video description below. I have tutorials linked there on how to set up your machine and use waste yarn in panel mode with step-by-step instructions that won't be included in this tutorial. For the edging, I did a moss stitch or a granite stitch. I show the setup of the first row. It didn't record any of the rest of the rows. I don't think I pressed play or record, so I'm really sorry for that. But once we get to the edging, I will explain that. And again, just look up a moss stitch or a granite stitch crochet tutorial. That's what it is. So again, I'm really sorry that did not get recorded. So let's get going on making our knit top. So to make this knit top, we need to cast on in panel mode using waste yarn. Now this is a contrasting color that's in a similar weight to your project yarn, but isn't a part of the project at the end. This is just to help with tension and take up slack and make it easier to pick up our project stitches to bind off and make the ribbing. For me, when I made the panel, I started at my 3rd needle and I ended at my 46th needle. This is pretty much the largest panel you can make on the Sentro circular knitting machine. You can use one more needle if you want. That would be the 47th needle to give it one more row to make it slightly larger. For the waste yarn cast on, I did about 6 to 8 rows. Once you have your waste yarn cast on done, next we are going to add on our project yarn. For our project yarn, we're going to add it onto our machine just like if you're going to change colors. And now we're going to start cranking out a row. At this point, remember to zero out your row counter. For me, I cranked out 200 rows per panel and I made 2 panels. These 200 rows do not count our waste yarn cast on or our cast off. It is just the project yarn rows. Now a tip, because we are making a wearable, is I have my digital row counter and I have mine set up so it does count in panel mode. Now the row counter that comes on the machine, it only counts in tube mode. It will not count rows in panel mode. But even though I have a digital row counter that does count rows in panel mode, I do not just rely on it. I also manually count my rows as a double check, because when you're making garments, it's super important that all of your panels, they're the same length for the body. So I will show you how I also manually count my rows as a double check. Okay, so now that I have quite a few rows cranked out, I take my darning needle and I'm going to count each loop starting at my waste yarn, where it's the first one, all the way up to underneath this peg. And I recount, and I'm just going to count 10 rows at this point. I put in my darning needle and then I get a stitch marker and I'm going to mark this. Once I get a few more rows cranked out, then I will count by 20s for the rest of the time. And I will show you how that's done once I get a few more rows cranked out. But I know this is at least my 10th row. Okay, now I have a few more rows cranked out. Now I'm going to take where my stitch marker was, I'm going to count 10 more rows up, and then I'm going to mark the 20th row. And so I'm just double checking my count, going up to the 20th. I mark it. This I'm using my loom pick. I'm just going to move. This is the only stitch marker I move up to the 20th one. I kind of pulled it out there, mark it at my 20th row. And now I'm going to count by 20s. Now I got a few more rows. I'm going to start at my stitch marker and I'm going to count up another 20 rows and I'm going to mark this. And I'm going to mark by 20s, like 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, and so on until I get close to my 200 rows according to my digital row counter. So I'll meet you back to where I'm about at 180 rows. Okay, so where my yellow stitch marker is, that should be approximately my 180th row. Now I'm going to count to see if I'm at 200 rows or if I need to do a few more rows. So after I mark that yellow stitch marker, I'm very slow at this point, so I don't do any extra rows. I want it to be exactly at 200. So after I counted, I needed just a couple more rows to make sure I'm at 200, to make sure my digital row counter isn't off. And it could be, sometimes if you're going super slow because it's a magnet, it can double count. So that's why I always, it's kind of like my triple check, is to use my stitch markers and count my rows to make sure I'm truly at 200 rows. Once you have all your rows cranked out, now we can cast off using the waste yarn cast off method. And for this, I like to do more rows in the cast on side because these are going to be live stitches once it drops off the machine on the waste yarn. So I like to do at least 10 rows, if not more, so you just have a little bit of extra added security in case some of those stitches on your waste yarn or your scrap yarn unravel. So there is one panel done. Now you want to make a second panel using these same exact steps, 200 rows. At this point, let's talk about sizing and how many panels you might need. My panels after blocking were 9 3/4 inches wide. So for me, I only needed 2 panels. Each panel was 200 rows, not including the waste yarn cast on and cast off. Now we're going to make this a V-neck, so we're going to mattress stitch up the front, like so, until we want our neckline to start. And then on both sides, we're going to mattress stitch from the bottom up to where we leave an opening for our armhole. And then on the back, we're going to mattress stitch to a V as well, just like the front. But this could be where you add a third panel if you want. And I'll show you what that looks like and some of the difference you might have to do if you're going to need to add on additional panels. The other option would be to add panels under the armpit area. If you're going to add an additional panel onto the back, I did 100 rows. This ended up making it too big for me, but you'll want it to make it half the size of your other panels for the back. Here it is mattress stitched together, and then you would have to either slip stitch or crochet a bind off on the top, edging where the waste yarn's at. So here's what the two options look like on me. Here's with the third back panel. I'm around 150 pounds. Size 8. This was too large. Here it is with just the 2 panels with just the V-neck mattress stitch. Fit me really well. And here is just it on the mannequin as well. If you needed to make it smaller, if the 2 panels are too large for you, you would just want to make smaller panels, but you'd still want to make 2 panels on your machine using less needles. Once you have all the panels you need, before you do any stitching of them together, the first thing you want to do is block them. So I'm using my blocking pads and combs. You can just use regular needles and cardboard if you do not have this. Because this was a more delicate cashmere wool, that I am going to just spray wet block it instead of submerge it. If you're using an acrylic yarn, you could steam block it, but if you use an iron, do not have it touch the fibers. It will melt them. You want to make sure you have a cotton barrier between the steam iron and your fabric so your fibers do not melt. And you do not want to press down with your iron, you just want to hover over it. So what blocking is going to do is give you a lot less curl. You're still going to have a little bit of curl, but much less than when you first take it off of your machine, and it's going to make it way easier to mattress stitch all of your panels together. So here's just a little sneak peek of what it looks like once you see the seam. You will have a little bit of seam where you go to mattress stitch. So there's my front, and now I'm going to mattress stitch up the back. And then remember, we also want to mattress stitch up the sides, but leaving a hole for our arms. So next I will show you how I mattress stitch the panels together. But here is how it looks like on the front once it's mattress stitched. Cute, right? To mattress stitch the panels together, I start from the bottom and work my way up. You're going to take 2 of the panels and we're going to line them up. We line up the first row of our project yarn. That's the yarn that's sandwiched in between. See how there's one row of green sandwiched in between the orange? That's our first row of our project yarn. So line those 2 up with both panels. Now using our darning needle and our long tail of our fabric yarn, we're going to use this row that's right here. That's our first V knit stitch. There's one other little row that's the end where it does a little bit different knit stitch. You don't want to use that one. You want to see how I curl it over to get to the V stitch, and we're going to pick up the piece of yarn that's in between the little V. So not this part here. If you use that, the mattress stitch won't look as good. You can still do it, but it just won't look quite right. But it's right here, the first actual knit stitch, and then you go in between the V and pick up the piece of yarn that's in between. So I'm picking up that piece of yarn that's in between the V stitch with my needle, and I go through, and we go back and forth going up this row on both sides to mattress stitch it together. Now this mattress stitching takes a little bit of practice, so you don't skip over to the wrong row. It can make it look twisted, or if you pick up the wrong side of the mattress stitch, if it doesn't look right, sometimes you're picking up not that piece of yarn in between the V stitch, you're picking up another piece of yarn. So this did take me some practice, and I've had to unmattress stitch, so remove all of my yarn and restitch it up a few times to get it right. So if you don't succeed the first time, it is okay. Just take your time, and to make sure you're staying in the same row on each side and just picking up that piece of yarn, and it's kind of hidden in there until you pull it up, and then you see it come through where the V or the point comes together of the knit stitch. And so the way I have this is, you can see it's the purl side is facing me, and then I'm kind of curling over the edge to get to the knit side, which is the other side. And then I'm picking up the stitch. So I'll leave this in real time for a little bit, showing how to mattress stitch up. And this is what you're going to do on all sides of your panels for all the vertical stitches, you could say, to seam them all together. And if the knit stitch, the mattress stitch, is done correctly, it should almost look invisible. But because we are in panel mode, we do have a slight seam. So there is going to be a seam with panel mode no matter what you do. And so I'm just going every other side, picking up every other V stitch. Now what I do after doing a few stitches, I will turn it over to check my seam. So here's what my seam has looked like so far. So far so good. That part looks good. Now let's flip it over to the right side, and here's what it should look like if your mattress stitch is done correctly. It should almost be invisible. If you see any twisting or curling, or it's not looking quite right, undo your stitches and try again, because you're probably either going starting in one row and going over into another row. That's very easy to do. I have done it, and it kind of creates this twisted look. Or if it just doesn't look like knit stitches on the other side, you're probably not picking up the piece of yarn that's in between. At the point of the V-stitch, you're probably picking up another part of the V-stitch, so they're not coming together quite right. And again, it took me a few tries to get this right. I have a few of my other projects that I did before I made a sweater, and where I did fingerless gloves, and they are not stitched up properly. And it took me a while to figure out what I was doing wrong. And it was pretty much, I'll zoom in here, I was not picking up the correct area of the V-stitch. So I think this technique is important, and that's why I kind of slow this part down so you can see it. And then I do some few zoom ins for you as well, so you can see exactly where I'm going. And what makes it even more invisible is using the same color yarn as your project yarn. But even if you used a different color, it should pretty much disappear. So I'm now going to speed this up, and I'll meet you back after you have stitched up the front of your project, the back of your project, and also the two sides of your project. Just remember to leave an opening for your armholes. And just a little note on how I do that is I will mattress stitch up one side to my armhole, try it on to see if that seems to be about where I want it, and then I will match, but I don't tie it off. And then I'll mattress stitch up the other side and try it back on, and to see if it's even, because you might on one side need to mattress stitch up a little bit more, or you might need to remove some mattress stitches if it's too tight, to even them out before I knot down the yarn at the top and the bottom of my mattress stitch and then weave in the ends. So next I will meet you at the bind off ribbing of our project where we crochet it. Okay, so now we are going to do the bind off at the bottom of our project. We have everything mattress stitched vertically together. So we have our neckline done, and we have also it mattress stitched on the sides, leaving an opening for our armhole. So I'm going to start my ribbing or my binding right here at the side seam of my project. So on the armpit side of my project. So I'm going to insert my crochet hook in one of the loops right at the seam, and I'm going to pull through my project yarn that's connected to my yarn skein, and I'm going to knot it down just so it doesn't go anywhere. Give it a little handover knot. And now we're going to take our crochet hook, now that our yarn's connected, go through one of the loops and pull up a loop from our project yarn and chain one. Next, pick up our project yarn and we're going to single crochet, chain one, go to our next project yarn, single crochet, chain one, go to our next project yarn, single crochet, and chain one. And this is going to be the pattern to single crochet and then chain one. My project yarn, how I know which loop to pick up, this is the green yarn that's sandwiched in between our waist yarn. And that's why it's really important to know what is our waist yarn and what is our project yarn, and why we use a contrasting color so we can see that first row of our project yarn. And this is the pattern that I do all the way around till I get back to my starting point. And here's just a little bit more zoomed in of doing the stitch so you can see where I'm picking up the live project stitches. Now, if we just remove this yarn without picking up the stitches somehow, like this is called like binding them off. If we removed the scrap yarn, then without doing this, then all of these live stitches would drop and the project would completely unravel. So we have to bind them off somehow. So if you know how to hand knit, you could hand knit a bind off as well, hand knit an edging. I'm opting to crochet an edging because I crochet, I don't hand knit. So once you go around all the way around one time, you can remove the waist yarn because all of the project stitches have been bound off. They are secure. They can no longer drop. And then if you want to continue with more rows of your edging, I believe I did 5 rows. You're going to continue with that same pattern for your next row. You'll chain one to start your next row, and then you'll single crochet into every big opening. So it'll be single crochet, chain one, single crochet, chain one for as many rows as you would like to do. And I did a total of 5 rows, again, of this moss stitch or this granny stitch. So to set up the next row, once you do your first bind off row, remove your waist yarn. Then when you get back to your starting point again, you're going to chain one, and then you're going to single crochet into the big holes that you will see in between your stitches, and then chain one, and then single crochet again into the larger hole. And you'll do that all the way around, and then you'll chain one again, starting your third row, and you'll start the process over again. So it's always single crochet into the large hole, and then chain one where you have a single crochet below. If you do not crochet and that is confusing, look up what a moss stitch is or a granite stitch is. That's exactly what this bind off is at the bottom. I do have an idea of making a bind off using the edging using the machine at the ends of the panels. So hit that like and follow button for a future tutorial that is going to have that. And I appreciate everybody's support, all the likes, all the follows, all the wonderful comments, and happy crafting, everybody. Thank you so much.